Hey team, it's Facts and Firearms. I'm Massa Ayub, and I'm going to show you a picture of an old friend of mine that we lost all too soon. His name is Jim Fleming. Jim was a very famous defense attorney in the Midwest. He had been a street cop before going to law school, and he was one of the best attorneys I ever worked with. For some time, he and I did CLE classes, continuing legal education for practicing attorneys, on the topic of managing self-defense cases. We did that for the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. Jim was famous for telling his students and his clients, you don't have to like reality, you do have to face it. We lost Jim during the pandemic of 2020 to COVID-19. But his wisdom remains with us, and facing reality is what we're going to talk about today. A while back here on this channel, we did a show called Get the Permit. And the theme of it was, even if you live in one of the now majority states that have so-called constitutional carry, permitless carry, what I prefer to call the Vermont model, it's still a good idea to get the permit if the permit is available. The reason is, number one, we all like to believe we're card-carrying good guys and gals. Well, who exactly gives you that card that says good guy or gal? The concealed carry permit is a piece of paper that says a government entity has checked you out, determined you don't have a criminal record, and has often done a character background check, and has entrusted you to carry a loaded lethal weapon in public among society. And that, brothers and sisters, is a damn good guy card. The other reason is reciprocity. We have more reciprocity now than ever, and without the permit, you have nothing to reciprocate with. Now, if you're going to spend your entire life living in your Vermont model state, that's fine, but most of us in America, the country on wheels, tend to cross state lines. And the more reciprocity you have, the more places you can protect yourself and your family. Well, looking at the comments, I was absolutely stunned at how many people said, oh my God, it's my God-given right. God lets me carry this gun. Fella, you take that attitude in New York State, New Jersey, some other jurisdictions, and you got caught illegally carrying, you're looking at a 1 year to 2 year minimum mandatory sentence behind bars. And you'll find yourself having a discussion about God lets you carry a gun with the prison chaplain instead of with me. A whole lot of these things it's better to find out from us now than from the prosecutor later. Now, I had guys saying, well, the Constitution says Second Amendment is my permit. Second Amendment's my right to carry. That argument will make you look like a fool in court. Your prosecutor cross-examining you will say, really, Mr. Defendant, did you get high school civics 101 in high school? Yes, of course. And who did they tell you exactly is the arbiter of the Bill of Rights? What entity would that be? The United States Supreme Court. United States Supreme Court. And are you familiar with the United States Supreme Court's decision in Heller versus District of Columbia in 2008, where the super pro-gun Supreme Court justice who wrote the majority opinion, Antonin Scalia, said clearly, however, the state jurisdictions do have the right to regulate the practice. Homina, homina, homina. I hear people say, I don't have to pay the state a fee to protect my family in public. How well are you going to protect your family when you're doing a year in jail? And if in New York, felony first offense for illegal concealed carry, how are you going to protect your family afterwards when, as a convicted felon, you can no longer own a firearm or even have access to one in your home? And there you are. We all have to distinguish between how we want things to be and how things are. Know what the laws are, where you are, and where you're going to be traveling to. I recommend handgunlaw.us. Of all the various print media, and particularly electronic media, sources for gun laws, that is, in my experience, the most up to date. The reciprocity agreements are made between state attorneys general. They can change on a whim. And when one state decides it's no longer going to recognize a permit from a given other state, it never gets publicized. A classic example, for many years, the state of Nevada recognized the Florida concealed carry permits, of which we now have at least 2 million in circulation. Countless Floridians went to Nevada for conferences in Las Vegas or for vacations and legally carried a gun to protect themselves. Well, in Florida at that time, the concealed carry permit was good for 4 years. The issuing authority, the Department of Agriculture, oddly enough, was somewhat underfunded, could not get the state to give them the money to give them the people they needed to process that volume of new permits and renewals, and basically said, okay, legislators, if you won't do that, can you at least let the permit be good for 5 years, which will reduce our burden on renewals? And they said, yeah, we can do that. Well, when it went to 5 years, someone in the state attorney general's office in Nevada said, ooh, well, we only issue permits for 4 years. Therefore, their standards aren't as strict as ours. Therefore, we'll no longer recognize. And never told anybody. Countless people were made criminals overnight by that whimsical change of the law. Have the permit and stay on top of things. And what will keep you on top of it is handgunlaw.us. Now, I understand at the time of this recording, Nevada has gone back and is now recognizing those permits. But you have to understand that while self-defense law in this country is pretty homogeneous state to state, gun law, what you can carry, where you can carry it, is a 50-piece patchwork quilt with no two states identical in every respect. Another reason to have the permit, I know cops in Florida who are legal to carry nationwide under LEOSA, the Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act of 2005. They also have concealed carry permits. The reason is, in Florida, if you have a concealed carry permit, it bypasses the waiting period to purchase a handgun. And Florida now has so-called constitutional carry. Having that permit allows them to say, when someone asks what authorizes you to carry a deadly weapon among the rest of us here in society, I like the idea of being able to say, I'm legal 3 times over. This, and this. And if you're not a cop, the permit allows you to say, sir, I'm legal twice over. I'm legal under the so-called constitutional carry law, which means anyone who's not a convicted felon, adjudicated mentally incompetent, etc., is allowed to carry this gun in public. And I have a permit from the state to do so. The reason that's important is if you ever do get in trouble with a gun in your hand, you're not getting a jury of your peers. The jury of your peers would be 6 to 12 other people, depending on the court and the jury structure, who carry guns themselves. During voir dire, the jury selection process, opposing counsel is going to do their damnedest to screen those people out. You're going to get a dozen lightweight yuppies from the suburb who've never thought about self-defense the way you have, and are vulnerable to the argument, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, normal people like us don't walk around in public carrying guns. What kind of person is this defendant before you who does? I want you able to say, I'm legal twice over. And if you're in a state that doesn't have concealed constitutional carry, I want you able to say, sir, I am licensed by the state to carry this firearm. I had people writing in saying, if I was on the jury, and they were some decent citizen was charged with illegal concealed carry. I would never convict them. Well, that would be going against the judge's instructions, which will be, if you found this person violated the law, you must find them guilty. That's an oversimplification, but that's basically how it'll read. And what you're talking about there is jury nullification. Jury nullification means that the jury decides, okay, he broke the law, but we think the law is BS, and we're not going to send this person to prison for it. Not guilty. Don't count on jury nullification. Be a realist. You live in the real world, not in the fantasy world. None of us lives in the world we want it to be. We have to recognize we live in the world that we live in. Know what the rules are. I learned early what I came to call Ayoub's Law number 9. Don't break the law. Know the law better than the other guy, and you'll probably never feel a need to break it. That's all I have to say on the topic. Haters, flame on. I'm expected to ask you to subscribe. My lovely bride, the evil princess of podcast pixels and polymer pistols, is also the princess of subtlety, so she's put this here for me. And we want to ask you also to ring the bell to notify you of further content, which we hope will inform you. And if it inflames you, well, what the hell? That's what the comments are for. We'll catch you next time, whether here or on the comments page.